A Bronson bombshell now after a parole board rejected a bid from Britain's most notorious prisoner, Charles Bronson, to be freed. His supposed son has exclusively told TalkTV that he's actually nothing of the sort. This is George Bamby, also known as George Bamby Salvador, took a DNA test to prove he was related to Bronson back in 2017. But today, 6 years later, he claims in an interview with our very own Vanessa Feltz, the story was completely made up to keep Bronson's name in the news. George alleges the 70-year-old inmate wanted his fake son as a close ally because he's a media-savvy journalist. Take a look at this extraordinary reveal.
So me and Charlie together made up the story that he was my dad. Charles Bronson is not my father. I am a PR agent, I'm a marketing person, and I'm the UK's #1 paparazzi, right? Not told anybody this for 6 years, and it's been an absolute bane of my life. The reason why I'm telling you now is because you're a lovely person. I've spoken to you on numerous occasions in the past, and I wanted to be able to speak rather than a newspaper do an interview and write a load of rubbish. Me and Charlie, for the last 6 years, have made loads of money. We've had loads of fun. We've created loads of stories. We've done loads of ridiculous things. We've manipulated the media. We've manipulated the prison service. I got into the maximum security facilities in 4 different prisons as a journalist.
So, I love the fact that he says that it's been the bane of trying to keep this quiet. Like every day, people are going, are you? Really? Are you? Come on, tell us.
Do another test.
What was he like as a nipper? You know, I don't think anybody even gave a toss about this, did they? But it was a big story in the sense that he did con a lot of people. And amazing that he suddenly reveals this today, that actually, despite what everybody has been thinking, all along, it was just a bit of a ruse. And this was in order to keep him relevant as apparently a member of the paparazzi.
Journalist.
Number one journalist.
And paparazzi.
But we can't, we've already learned, we can't take him at his word, can we? We're going to need a bit of proof.
Yeah, he might turn up tomorrow somewhere and go, no, that was a lie, actually.
The only thing he said
and his daughter.
that was the truth was that Vanessa's a lovely person. Otherwise, the rest was all...
The rest was all cobblers.
And he might be in a bit of trouble with this as well, because if he has made a load of money based on the fact that he faked a DNA test... He told a load of lies to get inside a prison to access a man who's been held in prison for longer than anybody else in Britain ever has been. He could be done for fraud, I would say.
Lock him up.
Well, he said he's selling the...
Maybe he could join him in prison. Stick him in the cell.
He can go with his dada.
That's it.
So, somebody told me, obviously he can't reveal the sources, as he would say, that he turned up at ITV with a bit of paper and went, look, there's the DNA test. And they went, all right, OK, that's amazing.
And he says that he's written the screenplay to the story of him and Bronson. He's selling it to various different networks, BBC, ITV and streamers are all knocking on the door, allegedly.
Such a classic, that, isn't it?
I'd watch it.
Come on.
Like, it's an amazing story. And also the way in which
he's a scumbag. Charles Bronson is painted as this kind of character, but he's just a criminal.
No, I'm not talking about Bronson. I'm talking about this guy.
Oh, him.
It's a fascinating story because he's had everybody eating out the palm of his hand to one degree or another. No, it's not a huge story, but he's had everyone swindled. And you'd think that he'd do this giant build-up to it, but the fact that he gave an exclusive just on a whim because it was Vanessa, that's an amazing story.
The other problem, though, with this is I'd never heard of this guy until this year when they started talking about the parole hearings. Me neither. So he hasn't been making a fortune out of it for 5 years, as far as I can tell. Yeah. Because the story happened and I forgot about it. I mean, he kind of came to prominence in the last few weeks when the parole hearings were...
I'd heard about him before because whenever Bronson comes up, they love to be like, OK, yeah, we'll get the Sun on. Yeah. On various radio shows, whatever. We'll get the Sun on and talk about it. But then what it blows open is, who else are we speaking to? Who else do we believe? And, you know, if someone was to call in and say, oh, I'm such and such's brother or sister, are you going to have to ask for proof?
Well, this is the point at which I say standards in journalism have really fallen. Because they don't check things anymore. Yeah. You know, I always wondered about that guy because I always thought it's just a bit of an odd story. I mean, I didn't know he was fake.
But it's the same thing as Charles Manson. Do you remember his son?
Yeah.
And it wasn't his son.
But what do you think
What is it about criminal Charlies?
What do you think about the fact that they're not going to let Charlie out?
Well, they shouldn't let him out.
Yeah?
No.
Yeah.
It's dangerous.
The other funny thing about this story is he says, you know, me and Charles spent a long time cooking this one up. It's like, Well, how long did that take to go, right, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to pretend to be your son. OK, fantastic.
And presumably...
Yeah, we'd have to get a fake DNA test.
Well, presumably they've got the recordings of it if they're communicating via prison phones.
No, the prison
because he was, that was the thing.
Yes, exactly.
But he was getting access to him in the prison because you could only get that if you were family, and that was why he did it in the first place. So he was inside the prison talking to him.
But there must be, at some point, a phone conversation
Not necessarily.
where they admit to it.
Not necessarily, because he might have just admitted... They might have cooked it up, in person.
Right.
And they might have been very careful not to say it for that very reason.
This geezer, what's his name? George, is that his name?
Well, he's now got a new name. He's now called Salvador.
George Bamby.
Made up another name.
Salvador!
I mean,
Oh, perfect.
He is a toad.
That's what he is. That piles on the credibility, doesn't it? They change the name to Salvador.
I think we might make it. You might get him on Plank of the Week. That's for sure.
Yes.
All right.